let's get Marion Bartoli in here, Wimbledon champ 2013. Great week
Let's
to have her in.
go.
Marion, it's great to see you. Jeff here with Vicky Duval and Nick Monroe. How's life? Are you watching some grass court tennis this week?
I am. Obviously, I've been watching grass court for the past 2 weeks. We switched right from clay to grass. We used to have only 2 weeks back then when Nick and I played mixed doubles at Wimbledon. That may be the reason why my mixed doubles skills were pretty rough. But yeah, no, it's always good fun to be on the grass and to watch the girls and the boys preparing for Wimbledon, which is really the biggest one you want to win.
I know. Hey, Marion, so good to see you. I'm so upset that they say 2013 Wimbledon champion, but they don't put our mixed doubles that we also played mixed there at Wimbledon. That's why you won the championship. Come on now.
Exactly. That's always what I say about this story. It's not about Pierce Brosnan. It's not about the training. It's about only you.
It's all about me. It was all the team effort, But Marion, yeah, we're on the grass. What adjustments did you make going from clay to grass? Because we're seeing a lot of players really having to make some different adjustments. And what was it like for you?
Well, the main thing for me was always the movement, because obviously from the clay, when you have to slide and you have to use so much more topspin, and your just court position is a lot deeper in the court. When on grass, you really want to try to hang the baseline or be even inside the court if possible. You have to be a lot lower on your legs, so always the glutes and the lower back were the area when you have to get so much stronger for the grass, because otherwise the first 2 practices you feel like so short on your glutes and your lower back from just getting so much lower compared to the clay court. For me, it was just really about the happiness to be back on grass. For some reason, clay was always such a struggle, week in and week out, just trying to find a bit of rhythm. And grass was coming, and almost instantly, my rhythm was coming back, my striking was coming back. Not in mixed doubles, I have to say, but nobody on the team.
Well, look at this run that you had. Look at this run you had.
Never didn't drop a set.
Sloane Stevens didn't drop a set. How was that moving through that draw?
Yeah.
Did you know at any point there after the first, second round, you know what, I'm feeling really good, I can go win this thing?
Well, not that early, to be honest with you, because I made it all the way to the final back in 2007 and lost the final to Venus Williams. So to be fair, I'm pretty on the match point in the final. You don't really want to get too ahead of yourself, because you can feel the trophy is right there, but still one more match to go is a loss in the Grand Slam. But I do have to say that, the fact that obviously we play mixed doubles helped me as well to just relax a little bit more. I was always someone very intense on the court, but sometimes almost too intense in the way that, I was feeling the stress maybe sometimes a bit too much. And the fact that my mind was taking off a little bit, practicing together, doing some different stuff as well, helped me to get through that draw. Absolutely. Sorry,
I know. I need like half of that trophy. You can send me half. Me half of that Wimbledon trophy.
Yeah, that picture is pretty cool.
And how was the Wimbledon ball here with Andy Murray? How was that?
You know what? The toughest part was actually to find a dress for the Wimbledon ball, because the issue was I had 5 blisters under each of my foot. So first of all, what kind of shoes I'm going to wear? So I couldn't wear any stilettos, because otherwise you would have seen, every bit of text I was carrying. So that was a no. So then I was left with sort of ankle boots, and then I can't wear a long dress with ankle boots. It's just not going to fit. So I had to find a dress that was sort of Wimbledon accepted, but shorter. So I came up with that dress that was not too short, because otherwise I think I would have been kicked out of the ball. And pretty dark, because I know Andy will wear a tuxedo, so we had to match in terms of color. So that was my whole goal of the Sunday, is find that out. Please, that was like a mission. I swear.
I love it. I love it.
Marion, it's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. I want to ask you a question in French, but I think they would yell at me in my ear. I could practice my French a little bit.
Go for it, bitch.
Ça va? No, that's all I have. So obviously your father was a big part of your career and worked with you throughout your years on tour. What was that coaching relationship like? Because there aren't many father-daughter coaching relationships. And was it difficult to separate it at home?
Well, for us, it was sort of, in a way, easy that my dad was a doctor and not a tennis coach or a tennis expert. Therefore, he didn't really train me as a tennis coach. He trained me more on the mental side and the way for me to focus on the court. He always let me technically do whatever I felt was comfortable for me. That's why a lot of people say my technique was unique, but it was unique in the sense that it was working out for myself. So he would give me drills with targets. Everything was about targets. I had to achieve certain part of the court. So he took it as a sort of geometric sport. So he found it that if you're able to play one corner and you're able to play the second corner in a row on multiple time occasions, then you're fine. So my dad put me through this kind of practice. And for me, it was just easier rather than listening to a proper tennis coach who would give me a proper technique, which was not something I was sort of feeling comfortable with. Even though as my career moved on and, I started to develop more a different side of game, I would say, or add more shots to my game. We had some implement of coaches here and there once in a while to just help me technically to achieve a certain shot, especially on my serve, which was one of my biggest improvement and probably one of the reasons I won in 2013 compared to losing in 2007. But to answer back to your question, for me, it was always a support more than a coach and someone I can always go back to and ask for advice. And something that I really loved about my dad, he was never blaming me for losing a match. He was always telling me, look, if you lost, it's because we haven't prepared you well enough. So let's go back to the drawing board. Let's try to find a better preparation and the next match will be fine for you. So it was never sort of, sometimes you hear some coaches saying, oh yeah, but on the break point, you didn't do the right shots. Oh yeah, but it's your fault because you had all those opportunities and you didn't take them. You're kind of like, yeah, I wish I could have taken them. It's not like I didn't take them on purpose, So it's always taking back off from my shoulder the fact that I lost, putting almost a loss on his shoulder, and that helped me a lot mentally to go through years after year on the tour, which it's very stressful. You have just a lot to deal with, and for me, it was just an easy conversation all the time. Nonetheless, and despite all of that, I always felt in 2013 it was a time for me to have another voice and something different. And we make that switch and transition very smoothly just because he never felt he had to impose himself. He was happy to be by my side, but he was also happy to be in his house playing chess and not worrying about my tennis. So my dad always been there if I wanted to, but not there if I wanted to as well.
That's really
And I found that relationship was really nice.
That's really interesting. That's cool to hear. We've had, a lot of parents here that do the parent-coach relationship, and that just sounds rather refreshing and healthy. We're taking a look at some video here of you hitting. For people at home, they might be learning for the first time. You hit two hands on both sides. And there was a period as of late, Marion, where I think for the first time in forever, there wasn't a one-handed backhand in the top 10 of the men's rankings. I think they're back in there. And people say these days with the power, the spin, the technology, people wouldn't want to teach a one-handed backhand. So with all that being said, are you surprised at all that we don't see more people playing like you played with having two hands on both sides?
It's a very interesting question. I think for one-hander, because you play with the open face of your palm, it's just a little bit easier to control the pace when it's coming from that side rather than the one-handed backhand. You're from the inwards of your arm, right? So to have a lot of strength on that side when the ball is coming at 200 kilometers an hour plus when you return, or to play those high balls, it's very, very difficult. I had that conversation with Monica Seles quite a lot because she always tell me that we were able to win the 4 Grand Slam together because she wants everything but Wimbledon, and I won Wimbledon. So we sort of finished the 4 Grand Slam playing two-handed on both sides. But the problem of the two-handed and the forehand is you have so much less reach. So the footwork has to be so much better because you just can't extend the arm to reach for the ball. Well, you can, but you're not going to have the same pace. Which actually on the two-handed backhand, you can sort of extend the left arm and get that reach still if you're a righty, for example, as you can see on that backhand that I'm playing down the line. On the right-hand side, which was my left hand was sort of blocking me almost. So I couldn't reach that far. So I had to always feel I had to have 2 extra steps going to the right compared to the left. So it doesn't make it easier, I have to say. And also one funny story, my daughter just started playing, she's 4. And my dad, so her grandfather is starting to teach her a bit of tennis. And So she tried naturally two-handed on the forehand because she see me playing like this still. And my dad was like, no. One hand. Not two hands, one hand.
I love it.
That's super cute.
She's getting on the court. I love it. Before you came on, we were interviewing and speaking to Emil Rusevori, and Emil Rusevori is kind of dealing with some mental health issues, and he's not sure when he's going to come back. You always look so dialed in on the court. You handle pressure situations really well. So I wanted to ask you, how did you handle these pressure situations so well? Let's say 2013 Wimbledon final. How did you handle these pressure situations so well? And did you work with a mental psychologist throughout your career?
Well, my biggest sport idol outside of tennis was Kobe Bryant. And Kobe, that massive mojo about work and, this Mamba mentality that you have to do more in order to achieve more. And I always felt for me that hard work would never betray me. And therefore, if I was putting the hard work in the right way, I would get my success at some point. And whether it would be in day 1 or day 100, it will still come. And therefore, I just had to trust that process and follow that process in order for me to wait for my time. And I think that helped me a lot through those moments when you have to really focus hard on the court and repeat the same movement. I always felt that if I was able to do it 1,000 times on practice court, I would be able to just do it one extra time on the match court situation. And that match point at Wimbledon, when I'm acing on the line, I always say that story because it's absolutely true. My dad will always finish every single practice since I'm like 8 or 9 years old. When I had to serve 10 serves in every single corner, so 10 out wide, 10 T, 10 T, 10 out wide on the ad court. So the 10 out wide on the ad court will be the last bit of the practice before it's finished. And I had to hit an A4 paper, so it was a pretty small target. And at 40 love, I'm watching my dad and I'm sort of whispering to him, look, Dad, I'm going to hit that A4 paper just like you teach me all my life. And I hit it exactly on the life, just like I've been doing a million times on the practice court. So that's always been my way of dealing with the stress, is just repeating the same movement over and over and over again. So no matter what the situation is, you will be able to do it. And my dad took that actually from being a doctor. When you have to perform sometimes, some things on an emergency case, and you have to do it, and you have the life of your patient in your hands, and you have 30 seconds to do it. And it's about how many times you have to repeat that exact same gesture in order to save the life of the person, that you will be able to do it on the spot. So that was his whole philosophy that I believed in since my childhood, and that took me to that match point and that ace on that match.
Wow, what a story. Right on the line.
That just gave me chills.
I know, right on the line.
That was amazing. I wanted to talk to you about, sorry, one second. I just had the...
Don't worry, we're watching tennis. By the way, we're in the third set here with Vekic Noskova, and we're on serve with Evans and Paul. First set, that's in Eastbourne. That's on Tennis Channel.
Okay, so, sorry, I just had the little brain freeze. You've gone to commentating ever since retiring from the tour, and I think it's such an important thing to analyze the game in a different way. I've learned a lot through watching tennis and talking about it. I just want to know what you think about the women's game now and how it has evolved since you retired.
That's a great question, Vic. I just feel he has changed in a way that maybe someone, let's say, ranked 50 in the world back then will have less of a team. When I say back then, let's say we take the 2000 to 2010 era, for example, those 10 years when I was really on the tour, and it was Serena who was picking up 3 out of 4 Grand Slams, in Maria and Kim Clijsters and Justina and all the greats that we had. And I can list 10 probably more on women's tennis. I would say someone ranked 50 or 100 back then will have maybe one tennis coach, and that's about it. It would be very difficult with the prize money to be able to afford a bigger team than just one person plus you, which is because simply the prize money in every single Grand Slam was completely different. When I played my first Roland Garros, it was 7,000 euros, first round loser, main draw. Now it's 70. It's multiplied by 10. So you obviously you can afford to pay for a lot more people in your team if you're able to earn a lot more money. And I think everyone has developed physically a lot more. I think someone ranked 50 now is a lot stronger physically, has a much bigger of a team, is able to play better tennis than someone 50 back then. Now I think the top 10 back in the days with all the champions we had were just so strong and with different game style. You had, let's say, Amélie Mauresmo were serving volley, slicing the backhand, coming to the net. You had Justine Henin as well, playing one-handed backhand. You had Serena, you had Venus, you had Lindsay Davenport, you had Jennifer Capriati, you have then all the Russians. You had different game style that you can identify yourself almost as a teen or even as a tennis fan. And you wanted to see those clashes. I would say now it's a lot more homogeneous in the way the girls are playing. It's a lot more one game style. That's why maybe Loïse Boisson, with that French girl who just reached the semifinal of the French play, difference. You can see that difference is making an impact instantly just because the girls are not used to play that different game style. So I would say back then maybe we had more variety. I think the top 10 overall was a bit stronger maybe, but I think the depth of the game has improved so much. When you look even now, the qualification of Wimbledon, you see someone like 200 in the world. Those girls are really playing. I mean, it's really high level tennis. So I think the depth has increased massively. I think in the top 10 back then, again, with a different game style, a different personality, the different countries, we just had that golden era of women's tennis that was really cool to be part of. It was very difficult to break as well, I have to admit it. To be part of that top 10 group was just so hard. But I think people really enjoyed that time. But now we have some great stars as well, when we have Coco winning Roland Garros, when we have Sabalenka just being so consistent, Madison Keys winning her first Grand Slam. We always have really good stories. But I think if we can have that sort of, consistency on the top of the game, it would be great, because when you look at Wimbledon, none of the top 10 currently in the draw has ever won Wimbledon. That would have never happened before. You would come at a Wimbledon in 2012, it would be Serena, who already won like 5, 6, 7 times before. So, it would be a little bit easier to sort of pick who is going to be the favorite, who are the other outsiders, who are the challengers. Now you kind of say, well, maybe 15 girls can win Wimbledon this year. So that's maybe the difference compared to before.
That was my next question as Vekic gets an opening game hold in the third set, is that the last 3 champs at Wimbledon on the women's side, relatively speaking, it's been a surprise. Krejcikova, even though it was her second major, she was seeded 32nd. Vondrousova the year before, unseeded. We know how much she can ball, though. And then Rybakina, not much of a surprise now, but she was 23 at the time. Is Wimbledon the tournament that is most prone for a surprise winner? And you don't need to put a big-time prediction, but would you put your money on, or do you think we will have perhaps another surprise winner this year, or would you rather put your money on chalk and take the women at the top, the Sabalenkas, Goff, Swiatek, what have you, in the top 5?
Well, I'm not very good at putting my money anywhere.
Okay, no money.
Monopoly money.
But I have to say 2 things. One, I think Sabalenka will go deep. I just think the way she's playing, every single Grand Slam she show up. When you look at US Open last year, obviously made it 1 against Jess Peguda, then Australian Open final, Roland Garros final. I think she has found now her groove in Grand Slams, and I don't think she will exit early. I think she will go very deep. Now, to make it as a winner, maybe it's a bit of a guess, but I think Final 4, 100%, and maybe even in the final. Now, that doesn't guarantee her as a winner, for sure, because when you look at Berlin, which was one of the draw when you had almost every single top 10 playing, it's actually Vondrousova who picked up the title. So you almost feel like you're going to have one of those outsiders who are kind of not really outsider because you know them, but don't really have the ranking to put them on the basic favorite. But I think Maddie Keys can do well. She won the Australian Open this year. Last year, she played really good on the grass. She got injured against Jasmine Paolini, but I think she can be someone, if she get on her strike and she get on the front foot, she can absolutely smack the ball and hit everybody out of the court at Wimbledon. But again, in the women's draw, I mean, if you have a crystal ball and you can tell me who is going to win the title on Saturday in 2 weeks' time from now, you're too good. I mean, I really can't compete with you because I have not a single clue.
Marion, you have a lot of fans that are going. I'll be going there as well, but I've never played on center court. I want to ask you, what is that feeling like playing on center court? It just feels like a cathedral and just so much energy. What was that feeling like for you?
Well, it was very, very special, obviously. Again, the first time I played on center court was actually back in 2007 against Justine Henin, who was back then #1 in the world. She beat in the quarters Serena. She faced me in the semis, so she's like it's not even the overwhelming favorite. It's her name is already in the final. It's like, it's like, whoever she's playing it doesn't matter. She's already in the final. And here I am. I'm 22 years old for the first time ever going into center court. And back then I was sponsored by the Swoosh brand. And the founder of the Swoosh brand is sitting in my box. So I'm in for the first time ever on center court of Wimbledon, and I'm playing in front of the founder of the Swoosh brand. I'm like, how am I going to handle this? It's like insane amount of pressure I have. On top of which, I'm the second semifinal. So Venus already qualified. And here comes sitting in the front row of the Royal Box, Pierce Brosnan. And I'm like, Jesus.
You're like, focus.
I'm playing the first set, the worst tennis of my entire life, like even worse than our mixed doubles. It was just, I couldn't swing a freaking ball inside the court. It was insane. And then Pierre showed up, and I'm like, okay, I don't care whatever you're doing. I don't care if you take 1 minute between each point, but you're going to stay at least an hour extra on that court, because there is no way you're going to lose that second set 6-1 again in like 20 minutes. That's so embarrassing. And just gradually, I start to take my mind off the moment and obviously the court and magnitude of the court and everything that it represents. And I start to play for something a bit lighter in a way. And the second set got really tough. I was 5-all. 15-40 defending break points, and then I got on a run of saving those break points and winning 7 games in a row, playing my best tennis ever. I would basically swing the ball, it would hit a line. So I won the second set 7-5. I was 5-love up against Justin, who won the Australian Open, Roland Garros, the US Open, and the Masters that year.
Wow.
She basically won absolutely everything. And I won the third set 6-1. And for the first time ever on center court was to qualify for the final of Wimbledon, which I did in front of Pierce Brosnan and the head of the Swoosh. That was pretty cool.
That's such a good story. Wow.
And the next day, take notice, Nick, I received 100 red roses from Pierce Brosnan.
No way.
Are you serious?
Did
James
you really?
Bond?
Yes, I did.
100 red roses?
Yes, I did.
To your hotel or what?
Yeah. No, to the locker room of Wimbledon, because we played Friday.
Yeah.
Because they had no roof back then. So it was raining so much, everything was postponed. So I played Friday. And then on Saturday morning for the final, he sent me 100 red roses to apologize for the fact he wouldn't be present for the final.
No way. How cool is that?
Was the locker room was kind of emptied out. No one was able to take notice of the roses you got? Or were you like, this is from James Bond?
No, so it was in the locker room. You know, on the finals day, they always give you extra flowers. So I'm entering the locker room downstairs because I was not seated back then. So downstairs, I'm going to the locker room, which are completely empty. And I'm seeing this massive bucket of roses. And I thought it was just because it was final day.
Yeah.
And the attendant of the locker room just told me, it's for you. It's from Pierce Brosnan. So basically, he had a handwriting letter with his name on the envelope that says Pierce Brosnan.
No way.
And he handwrote a letter to apologize for not being in the final, which I kept, obviously, the letter. And in 2013, he was present for the final, and that's the year I won.
Oh my, that is an
unbelievable.
amazing
I could actually won
story.
2 Wimbledon
That's
if he would have been present.
Mary, this has just been like the perfect guest to have as we're getting all set for Wimbledon. So thanks for coming on, reliving all those stories and that magical run that was 12 years ago. We appreciate your time, and we love listening to you when you're calling matches and giving the interviews, the French Tennis Federation.
Absolutely.
Marion,
thank you so much.
See you at Wimbledon.